welcome back to another battle report, folks. We've got Tom fighting Laurence again in a rematch, except they're crossing over sides. This time Tom is playing the Germans and Laurence is playing the Soviets. So let's go over to the players and see what they're saying about the lists, have a look at the list, the mission, and then get on with the game. Welcome back to the channel, Laurence. If you could maybe tell us what you're bringing today and any thoughts about how you put your list together.
Cheers, Frank. So I'm really enjoying my Soviets just now, so I've gone for a Hero T34 tank battalion today. I think my image of playing the Soviets was, the idea behind it is that I'm all for attack. So for my mission, we'll be opting to try and attack if possible. I have this image in my head of T34s storming across the battlefield with infantry and support, smoke and guns galore. So that's the kind of essence of my list. So for my kind of formation, it's 48 points strong. I have the T34 HQ, and then I have 3 platoons of 4 T34 76. So that gives me 13 T34s, albeit with the 76mm gun. To accompany them, I've got a Hero SMG platoon that consists of 7 stands of SMG teams, a commissar, and a 2-point extra for my flamethrower. I do hope that I end up trying to shoot with him today, but all other efforts have failed previously. So I'm looking forward to try and get them involved. To support, I've got the 2 IL-2 Sturmovik planes with 4 bases of 122M howitzers, a little observer. I've got a shock rifle platoon, consists of 9 stands, which is kind of like the MG rifle teams, with a commissar. And to back it up, I have 4 SU-100, so some big kind of tank killer, that although it's only 4 shots, so my list is quite short on heavy anti-tank, so that's my only fear potentially today, that I'm going to come up against probably elephants or God knows what, and it's going to be T34s deciding that just to run about and confuse them is my best hope. But I just like the idea of attacking. I've gone for the smoke card for 3 points. So my idea being, get the smoke up and try and charge as fast as possible, because the T34s are really fast, very nippy. And ideally, you do want them to try and get into positions whereby they can flank these tanks that potentially Tom may have. So that's the idea. The Hero this time, which gives them a better skill in the assault and whatnot. So here's hoping that the Green Tide will perform today.
Right. Well, let's see how that does. There's lots of T34s with anti-tank 9, but I find with T34s anyway, you tend to have to break into the enemy's defensive zone and get in about the flanks, and that speed will hopefully do it for you.
Thank you, Frank. Here's hoping.
Let's start with the core units in the formation. Company command, 3 platoons of 4 76mm, and then 7 SMG with flamethrower. Let's see how long that lasts. So let's see if it can actually flame anybody. Then in support, a big lump of nasty Hero shock rifles, 4 122s with the observer, and then 4 big nasty SU-100s, anti-tank 15, 32-inch range, but can't get over hedges. So hedges may be the thing that actually defeats these guys in this game. So there you go, there is, and of course a Sturmovik, but we'll be proxying in something because I don't have any planes. It's not something I actually use myself, but we'll proxy in the plane that I do have as to represent them. Welcome back to the channel again, Tom. What have you got for us today? What list have you brought? What's in it? And what is your strategy for the game?
All right, so I've brought a fairly, I guess you could say, all-rounded SS Panzer force. So it's a Panzer IV formation. So HQ Panzer IVs, platoon of Panzer IVs, and then the more juicy bits in it, platoon of Stugs, and then some Panthers. I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with Panthers. They always don't seem to do as well as I think they should. Mainly in the fact that all my bad dice rolling seems to be contained within that one unit. But I keep wanting to try them out. And then supporting the formation, some Vesps, some artillery. Vesps are the artillery. Some infantry and some recce. So it can do more or less a bit of everything. The things that make it a little bit more quirky, I've put Ernest Bartman as a wild card. I've never played with him before. He's quite expensive at 4 points, but he's quite good in that. For the platoon leader of the Panthers, he can reroll one miss with his main gun, and should he actually get killed on the 5+, he's bailed out instead. So I've actually got the old Ernest Bartman model from version 3. I was given that at my one of my birthday presents. So I've always got a bit of a soft spot. So now I've finally got an excuse to play him.
And it's an SS unit, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, he plays for the. Oh yeah, I guess he's technically a dash right character, which makes. Didn't think of that actually. Sorry. For migration purposes.
Oh no, that's fine. That's
Um,
fine. It's you can use different books together in this one. We're not fussed.
right. Oh, okay. Okay. And then for mission matrix wise, I think because of their aggressive nature, I think you do have to play aggressive. Um, I think if you can't quite hug cover as well as here Germans because you can just get bombed out of existence. So that one platoon of infantry that I have would just get bullied on by various sources of artillery. Additionally, although you can use gun to ground to keep your tanks a bit more secure, again, once the pressure starts piling up, I think their aggressive nature tends to be really detrimental. And so for that reason, I think you've got to take the initiative. You've either got to, and then try to do the reverse of what I've just said that can happen to me onto the opponent. And I think with the numbers that you can bring onto the table, and if the Panthers do what they should do, and if I can roll above a 2 with them, then that you can use them as a bit of an anchor to basically hold up quite a lot of the enemy force while your more medium stuff and your infantry can actually do the dirty work. And, yeah, I've had quite a bit of success with them. There are the odd turns where you lose a few more bases than you think you should, and then you squirm a little bit. But other than that, just try and play a fast mobile game and see where it takes me.
So strategy is attack. So
Yeah.
we've got Laurence taking the same strategy. So we'll roll off next on the matrix to see what mission we'll be playing.
Right. Excellent.
Starting with the core formation. Company command, 2 Panzer IVs, 4 Panzer IVs, 3 Stugs, and 3, will they be lucky, Panthers. Then in support we've got the SS Panzer Grenadiers. They're not in SS uniforms, folks, because I've not got around to painting my SS yet. The anti-aircraft half-tracks, these are the unarmoured models, but the card Tom is playing will make them the armoured variant. These I'm having to proxy for the 250 half-tracks. I've actually got some of those, but then once again they're not assembled or painted, but these are of a comparable size, so they will do. And then the 3 Wefs plus the Observer, so there you go, an SS Armoured Battle Group. The 122mm gun is one of the heavy guns in the Soviet artillery arsenal. It has got the gun shield rule and the large gun rule. It is aggressive, so hit on a 3+, it motivates on a 4+ for being confident. The skill rating is trained, which is important for when ranging in, and that's a 4+, and it has a 5+ in assault because it's a gun. It's got a 4+ gun save. It does not have a tactical move, so it cannot move and fire. The artillery itself has a range of 80 inches firing bombardments with an anti-tank of 3 and firepower 3, and that's forward firing, so it must point towards the target. In direct fire, it has got just a 16-inch range, rate of fire 1, slow firing as well, and anti-tank 9, firepower 2, with the brutal rule, which means soft targets such as infantry, guns and unarmoured tank teams must re-roll saves. Hero shock rifle companies represent the more experienced end of the Soviet infantry arm. They're aggressive, so they're hit on a 3+. They motivate on a 4+ as they're confident, but if they have a commissar, they can motivate on a 3+. They have a good skill rating of 3+ as well, which can be vital in assaulting or perhaps making an important blitz move. They have a 3+ save. They're armed with rifles. They don't have medium machine gun teams, so they get a rate of fire of 1 halted or on the move. It's not affected by any penalties on the move, but it's only a rate of fire of 1. But you can add heavy machine guns, anti-tank rifles and flamethrowers to the platoon to give it a bit more range or a bit more heavy hitting firepower. SS Stugs are aggressive, so they're hit on a 3+. They're fearless though, so also motivate on a 3+, though it's a 4+ when counter-attacking because they are an assault gun, and they have a 2+ remount due to their high level of motivation combined with the protected ammo rule. They're trained, so they have a skill check of 4+, but when they're assaulting, once again because they're an assault gun, they are needing a 5+. They have a fairly typical mobility of 10-inch tactical and 12-inch terrain dash, 18-inch cross country, but it's a 4+ cross check, so not so good at getting over obstacles. Their main gun has a 32-inch range. It's got a rate of fire of 2, 1 when they're moving. It's fixed forward firing though, and the MG has a rate of fire of 3 but only 2 when moving, and that's also forward firing. The Wesp is a mobile and armoured 10.5cm artillery piece. It doesn't have a lot of armour mind, with only 1 on the front and the side and 0 on top. The SS version is aggressive, so hit on a 3+, but it's fearless, so motivates on a 3+. However, because it's a self-propelled gun, counter-attacking on a 5+. 2+ remount with protected ammo rule is very good. They have a skill rating of 3+, which is what you need to plot those artillery barrages, but hit on a 5+ in assault. The artillery weapon itself has a 72-inch bombardment range, 24-inch direct fire range. In bombardment, it has got a 3 anti-tank rating and a 3+ firepower. When firing direct, it has got a rate of fire of 1. It's got the slow firing rule too, so it's more difficult to fire on the move, with anti-tank 9 and 2+ firepower. So we rolled on the mission matrix and we got Encounter. I think it's still called Encounter. Yeah, Encounter. I've not played that in quite a while. These are 2 aggressive mobile forces, so it could be quite an interesting game. Encounter is a bit of a golden oldie, so to speak, in the stable of missions in the game. It's a very simple deployment zone, as you can see. The significant thing about this game is it's a meeting engagement, so there's no pre-ranged in markers. It means, unfortunately, Laurence won't be able to use his smoke. But them's the breaks when you choose your list, folks. Sometimes it's good for one mission, but maybe not useful for every mission. But anyway, you can see it's got it's a meeting engagement, and importantly, it has delayed and scattered reserves. So whatever you've got, if I can keep the glare off that bit, folks, whatever you've got coming on the table, you cannot guarantee where it's going to come on, if it's going to come on where you need it, and you're only going to be rolling for reserves from turn 3. So everything is deployed. Laurence was nominally the attacker. We're yet to see who's going to go first, but we'll come back to that after turn 1. As you can see, deployment is, in reserves. It's more important. Tom has put his Panzer Grenadiers and his Panthers, and then Laurence has put his SU-100s and all his infantry. So Laurence is definitely going for an attacking starting position. So we have objectives. Tom's put one here and one underneath all those tanks there. Laurence has one between those two woods and over here. And then in terms of deployment, Laurence has got a platoon of T34s there, observer, T34s plus company command, artillery, and T34s round there. Waiting for them is Tom's company command and platoon of Panzer IVs. He's got his observer Panzer III there to try and get line of sight on the artillery. And then over here he has Wesps, Stugs, anti-air, and the Amacars who have used a spearhead move to move himself up, but nothing came up with them. So there you go, folks. We need to roll off to see who actually gets first turn, and that could be vital because there could be a lot of dead tanks by the end of turn 1, depending on how it goes. And remember, no artillery for whoever does get the first turn. We'll clear up and come back at the end of that first turn. Turn 1, and as it turns out, the Germans got first turn. So in terms of movement, one Stug had line of sight over to here, and 2 moves to get line of sight. But there's going to be concealment whatever happened. Even though the Stug was on the hill, it was shooting past a house. So everything was going to be concealed, which was going to make them a bit harder to hit because they've not counted as moved yet, they've got on the ground. And then over here, in terms of movement, the company command wanted to advance to take cover behind this wood and fire at these guys over here, and it got stuck. Both of them failed. And then in terms of shooting, there was three shots in the open, 1 concealed and got on the ground, 2 hits, 1 saved, 1 failed, and a successful firepower. So no artillery in the first turn from the Germans, and first blood to the Germans, although it maybe could have gone worse, but we'll go now for Soviet turn 1. Soviet turn 1, so the plane is deployed, so to speak, but it didn't turn up. In terms of movement, well, first of all, there's a big cloud of dust up that road as Laurence is taking advantage of the very high road dash speed of these T34s, followed by the company commander, and then a little follow me as well. So he's in a flanking position on the Stugs, and then he's brought these guys over to have a go at the Stugs too. And then on the far side beside the church, they're just getting the hell out of dodge and terrain dashed behind the barn, which should give them some protection. They might still be able to get shot at, but they should get some protection next turn in terms of forcing the Germans to move. Then artillery fired first, tried to range in, just in here to get this big group, but failed. Needed a 5, didn't get above a 4. These guys couldn't fire because of the dash. These guys fired, got a couple of hits on here. Tom bounced one off to the guy in the hill. So the worst that could happen now would be a bail for that one. But he saved both quite easily. Anti-tank 9 against front armour 7 is not going to do a lot of damage. Needs those flank shots. So that's it for Soviet turn 1. No killing as such, but some interesting manoeuvres. German turn 2. So what happened in that turn? Basically it was try to kill the T34, so just zoom in here. These Panzer IVs moved around, still taking as much cover from the woods as possible to get line of sight, downrange on these guys, and the observer moved out the way. The company commander, they could have moved up, but Tom was worried about these guys on a 2+ cross check, getting them in the flank through this wood here, so he's keeping them back in a defensive position. and then the Wefts have decided they want to be tanks and try and kill some T34s, and the Stoogs just stayed put. So in terms of firing, there was no bombardment because the West moved up. They rolled up dramatically, unleashed huge clouds of smoke, and at the end of it, nothing was dead. The Stoog though, the one on the hill, managed to kill 2, and the 2 in the road were a bit unlucky. They only managed to get a bale. They had a couple of chances to do a bit of damage, one potential kill, one potential bale, only got a bale out of it. And then the 4 on the far side managed just 1 hit out of 4. They did 5, so it was a bit of a long shot. On the company commander, managed to get potential bale on him, but failed to firepower. So still a few T34s left alive. So one more turn before both sides start rolling for reserves, so over to the Soviets. Soviet turn 2, last turn before we start rolling for reserves. So what happened there in terms of motivation, the T34 got back in. That was it. The Sturmovik turned up, it's over there, looking like a HS-129, but don't worry about that, folks. So it came in over there to attack the Panzer IVs. Then these guys moved up to get line of sight, one on a Panzer IV if needed, but to support these guys against the Wesps. And then in terms of shooting, it was quite nasty. The artillery managed to range in on this house here, but got quite a few hits, but no kills, no failed saves. And then in shooting, these 3 guys here managed to get 5 hits on the Wesps. It was brutal. They were just like reminded why they're artillery and not tanks. And then over here, these guys, one could only shoot at the Stoogs, the other one's concentrated on the guy in the hill, which meant all the hits had to go across these 2, and as a result they both ended up bailed. That one hit several times but only 1 bail. That guy managed to get 1 hit, failed firepower, failed save, dead. So that was, the Sturmoviks got 4 hits but only killed 1. So it could have gone better for the Sturmoviks, but still quite a few Panzer IVs over there. But over here, Wefts gone and Stoogs 2 up, remount. They need to get back in next turn. German turn 3. So starting with motivation, because that was really important with the motivation there. The Stoogs needed a 2 to get back in. One of them passed and one of them failed. Tom then thought, good time to use a lucky card, and then when I say failed, by the way, I mean he rolled a 1, that's all he needed. And then Tom used a lucky card and rolled another 1. So he had to do a last stand, needing a 3, and rolled a 2. So instead of having 4 dice, reasonably expecting 4 dice to come back at the T34s, the Stoogs are gone. He got his Panthers on, and they came in on this corner. He seems to be rolling 1s and 2s very successfully in this turn. And he's moved them over there by a tactical move to shoot down range at T34s. The anti-aircraft half-track have moved over to get some cover from smoking away from the artillery template. The armoured cars are finally all together back in, well, there are the 250s they're meant to be, back in that field. And then everything else, the Panzer IVs, stayed still, apart from the company command, who both rolled a 1, believe it or not, to try and move out to get some flank shots down here. So in terms of shooting, the Panzer IVs, 2 stayed still, 1 moved up, they all stayed still, 1 fired down here and only got a bail, 2 fired down here, a bit more successfully, got a couple of kills, and that included the company command, but he warrior saved into a bailed out tank, so 2 kills and a bail. And then the Panthers managed, between them with just 3 dice, they managed to get 1 hit here, but only a bail. So that platoon is destroyed, company command's in a bit of bother, those 2 have to get back in. Panthers are on the table now, so that might help turn the tide, but the issue is over here, what is between the T34s and that objective. Soviet turn 3. So in terms of motivation, the company commander got back in, and this guy here didn't. In terms of movement, these guys are just hiding. There's too much nasty stuff over there, including Panthers. Oh, they got the plane, sorry, but no reserves. Then tactical move up. Company commander tactically got over the hedge, tactically moved up. And then in terms of shooting, the artillery ranged in over here and got a couple of hits, but didn't cause any damage. these guys managed to get 2 hits needing 6s because they're gone to ground scouts. I got a kill and a bail. The company commander fired and missed. And then the plane managed to get a couple of hits. It came in out of the range of anti-aircraft, managed to get a couple of hits and bailed out Barkman. So there you go, Barkman, that's what you get for coming to the Eastern Front. Right, and that's it for the Soviets. A lot of pressure on this objective. It comes down to how quickly those tanks can come over to help and where the final reserves do or do not come in. German turn 4, so what happened that turn? In terms of motivations, everybody who had to get back in got back in. In terms of reserves, they got Panzer Grenadiers and they rode in to come over there, which was quite handy. They moved up into that house, into this field with a view of doing an assault. The Panthers moved up and tried to follow me. Didn't quite work, but they're moving towards the danger side. Panzer IV's kind of filling their spot. Company command are behind that wood there, looking after that objective, looking after the flank. So the Panzer IVs managed to double bail and effectively kill that T34 between the houses. Faust managed to bail this end tank here, and then that was about it for shooting really. And then in terms of assaults, because that tank was bailed out, the assault went in with 2 bases. They managed to double bail and kill it, and Laurence motivated and came in and killed both of the bases of infantry that were there. That kind of ended the assault and forced the guys in the house to break off out. Laurence consolidated over there. So over to Lawrence's turn 4, and we'll see if he gets his SU-100s on the table. Soviet turn 4. I don't think there was anything in the way of motivations there at all. And they got the reserves on. It was SU-100s and they rolled for a 1. So they're coming in this corner, which is probably quite good, to be honest. And in terms of movement, they dashed up to there. The T-34s cross-checked with tactical over here to shoot at the infantry there. He did a wee move around the side to give him a few firing options at company command. These 2 over here have just stayed hidden. And then in terms of shooting, well, not a good turn to be a German. The 122s ranged in on the Panthers, and that plume of smoke there tells you one of them's dead, that is. Then over here, the poor infantry got absolutely smashed. They had concealment, but they took a total of 8 hits. There's only one base left alive over there now. So Tom has got to kill some significant things starting from next turn. There are still 2 platoons of infantry to come on for the Soviets, but I can't imagine there'll be a deciding factor. I think it's all going to come down to what happens over in this corner, but we'll see. German turn 5, so all the reserves are on. In terms of motivation, the super brave, fearless SS didn't unpin and ran away. That's infantry gone. And it's been quite a shocking series of motivation rolls. Even follow me's have just not been working in this game for Tom. So he's just basically swinging these guys over. You can see in the back there the Panthers. Once again, it failed follow me, or there would be 2 up there. And Panzer IVs on the road there. Trying to go over to defend this objective because everything's kind of coalescing around here. And because of all the follow me's and dashing and whatever, there was no shooting from the Germans this turn. So we'll be over to Laurence for his turn 5, and he's still rolling for reserves. Soviet turn 5, and reserves come on. They got a 4, so anywhere on the back edge, running up, see if they can get involved. But it's kind of academic because everything just, well, it didn't even take everything, it just took some T-34s to shoot and bail out those, in fact, maybe killed one, bailed one, but anyway, no active teams within 4 inches of that objective, with the company command starting the turn within 4 inches, so that's victory for the Soviets. So, quite an interesting game. Motivation was key. Let's go over to the players to get their thoughts on the game. Right, folks, so let's have a word with Laurence just to tell us what he thought of the game and what he thought of his lists, any strengths, weaknesses, learning points, or such likes. Laurence.
Thank you, Frank. Well, excellent game. Really enjoyed it. I think, to be fair, the dice gods were not on Tom's favour today. I think it was some pivotal moments in the game, particularly him losing the Stooks in that corner, rolling 2 1s in a row, and then running to run away was really unfair. And I think, that was a massive moment in my favour. And especially he got his Panthers on the other side of the table as well. So in essence, I think in terms of that, that helped me out a lot. I think these T34s are really vulnerable, but you just have to go and get them in your opponent's face, because then that kind of opens you up to side shots and you name it, which needs to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to lose completely in any kind of volley situation against one another. So really enjoyed it. I am getting nervous about these. It's the second time I've kind of run these T34s. Did they make a difference because they were heroic? Not really. I don't think. Not in this particular game. But I still had two infantry platoons and my SU-100s that didn't really make any impact in the game at all. I think the plane did its thing, and my artillery did its thing. So it was a well-rounded game, but I think for me, I won it more so regrettably on Tom's downfall in dice rolling. To be fair, I think it was very unlikely. It would have probably been a draw potentially if I would have thought, because I don't think he would have been able to take my objectives with my infantry coming on within the time period, and most likely my tanks at the top, the T34s, would have been gone, and I just wouldn't have enough to kind of then take over. So really good. Tom's a great player, and it's good to get another game under the belt. So yeah, thank you, Frank.
Right, well, thanks for playing again. It was a very strange game in many ways, but it was very interesting all the same. It could have gone totally differently on a bit more of an average set of dice rolls, but it was very much at any point, I think, there for the winning of either player. So thanks again. I'm going to go over now to Tom after he's had a chance to catch his breath and see what he thinks of the game.
Cheers, Frank. Thank you.
Well, there you go, Tom. Before we have the recap, I think you probably want to see what this is. This is just what a 3 looks like, because you seem to have a few problems reaching that level. Have you got anything but 1s or 2s on your dice? But what did you think of the game and your list and how everything went?
I thought it was a fun game. A lot of manoeuvring, which is quite good, because sometimes, in a typical defender versus attacker, it's a bit of a slog sometimes, and the defender doesn't have a right lot to be able to do. But that was good. There was a lot of manoeuvring, lots of little mini battles and skirmishes going on that required just a little bit of finesse. I think the list is okay. It's just a fairly generic all-round tank army, but it's one that Germans tend to still struggle with. If you want your fancy toys, then your list is always going to be stretched, and that's what happened really. My Stugs had to fend off 8, 9 T34s at one point, and I did that deliberately because I wanted all my Panzer IVs to try pick on one set of T34s and then just move down the line. Just didn't help that my HQ tank couldn't figure out how to get the tank into first gear, which was more of a persistent problem than I thought it was going to be. I'm perfectly honest. And then the Stugs. I thought the combination of the Stugs, the Vests, and the Panzer IVs might have killed another 34. but only killing 2, it meant that he could just wipe off the West in one go, which I was kind of expecting. I had to sacrifice him to buy me a turn, but then the fact that the Stugs ran away so quickly immediately after that was a bit worrying. And then at that point, I was clutching for straws, and I think Laurence really played well in making sure that I could never fully recover properly. I was on the back foot. So, yeah, I think going forward, I'd probably play with that list again. And then, I'm just trying to figure out where I think I could probably improve it, and whether, if you're going to go Panthers, do you need to go more Panthers? But I don't know if more Panthers would have necessarily helped me in this particular game.
It's tricky to use trained Germans, but at least it has a different way of playing Germans and getting a different flavour off them in the game. The trade-off there is obviously with them being fearless, but in your case, they weren't very fearless, and I think that made a huge difference to the outcome of the game in terms of motivations and remounts and follow me's and things. So if that hadn't happened, it might have been a different game. But thanks for playing. Even though you maybe got a bit of beating on the luck side of things, you did everything that anybody possibly could in the circumstances to keep yourself in the game, and it was good to watch. So hopefully all the viewers enjoyed, and we'll get you back again for another game soon. Right folks, there you go, a victory for Laurence. It's good to see a victory in these fair fight missions, because they can quite often just turn into draws as both sides just try and get the forces on and try and get at each other. But I think the main difference in that game that stopped it from being a draw was some dodgy motivation checks, or the reserves coming in, the Panthers for instance coming in over there instead of over there. But that's the nature of the game. That's what creates the potential for victory. So it was an entertaining game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Would I have done anything different? I don't think so. I think Laurence was very aggressive, even though he didn't get the first turn. He just steamed up the road, and I think he did what you have to do with Soviets, Soviet armour anyway, and that's break into your opponent's deployment zone, because then things start to happen. He put things under threat, like putting the Wefs under threat, and then luckily being able to kill them all. You can get to those kind of soft targets, get around the side of tanks and such likes. So I don't think would have done anything different in that respect. I think that was the right thing to do. And Tom, well, he kept doing the right thing. He kept moving his stuff where he needed to go to, but a few bad rolls along the way. And his poor old infantry, being aggressive, they just got absolutely smashed to bits. A taste of the Soviet experience there. If they had been veteran, they maybe could have held that flank for a bit longer. But it was a lot to ask of them, so I don't think there was much of anything that either side could do. But thanks for watching folks, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for subscribing. If you've not subscribed already, please consider doing so to help us keep bringing these games to a wider audience. See you in the next one.